All right, this update is brought to you by DraftKings Fantasy Sports. We'll start with the Aztecs. According to reports from Brett McMurphy and Pete Thamel, San Diego State is set to hire Colorado offensive coordinator Sean Lewis as their next head coach. And last night, San Diego State beat Point Loma at Viejas Arena 71-51 to move to 6-1 on the season. Check out what DraftKings has to offer this season with code SPORTS, because life's more fun when you're in on the action. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions do apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details today. I'm an idiot.
San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? It's hour one of Jon and Jim. San Diego State has a new football head coach. It will be Sean Lewis, the former offensive coordinator at Colorado, the former head coach at Kent State. The 37-year-old offensive innovator will be San Diego State's next football coach. Exciting times on the Mesa. We want to hear from Aztec fans. What do you make?
Is that official now?
Of this hire? We have it through sourced reporting, not through San Diego State, that Sean Lewis will be the next head coach of the Aztecs. So let's just say that. Sean Lewis, listen, crazier things have happened. We're all human beings. Yeah. People have literally taken jobs and then, 24 hours later, gone back to previous jobs.
Right.
The expectation, with 99% expectation or more, is Sean Lewis, the 37-year-old who was calling plays for Deion Sanders, will be the next head coach at San Diego State. Led the nation in total offense one year at Kent State. Had a meteoric rise in coaching. What do you think, Aztec fans? This is what people were asking for and clamoring for, right, Jim? They wanted offense first. They wanted young. They wanted innovative. They wanted a new quarterback, right? They wanted all of it. And let's see if they're going to get it here with Sean Lewis. It's exciting times. We want to hear from you. 844-570-1360, 70470. Start your message with team. The expectation is Sean Lewis, the 37-year-old, will be the next head coach of the Aztecs. By the way, Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, will join us at 5 p.m. Kyle Glazer, on all this Juan Soto smoke, will he be moved at the winter meetings or even before? He'll join us coming up at 3:30. Jim, what's your reaction? You were excited. We were texting back and forth about this. This is right in your box of what you were looking for.
Pretty much almost to a T. I said, I want the hot guy, using Marty's term.
Yeah,
I would consider Sean Lewis the hot guy.
Mm-hmm.
I want young-ish, but not too young. At 37, that's pretty young.
It's one of the youngest coaches in FBS football.
But the difference there, he's been a head coach. He's called plays multiple. Like, he's not just coming off his first season as a play caller on a Division I school, like the offensive coordinator for UNLV. Nothing against him. I just wanted someone with more experience and more of a track record, right? More bullets on a resume. Check that off the list. Number two, a guy that's offensive minded. I don't know if I've said that already, but the offensive minded type of head coach, type person that would come into San Diego State and hopefully, make this school an offense like a super exciting type of football. Okay. Check that off the list. And then it's yet to be determined now, but I want this guy who, it's going to be Sean Lewis here. Can you recruit and can you bring a quarterback with him? Like, can he bring a quarterback here to San Diego State? Can he recruit? Can he bring excitement to the fan base? I think those are, TBDs right now. Like, it's yet to be determined. I think how the majority of the fan base feels about Sean Lewis because he's relatively not this huge big name on the coaching market. But I think if you look at a lot of people that cover college football and the big time writers and the big time people that cover college football, I think majority of them would say Sean Lewis is not only an up and comer, but he's an innovator, and he is a guy that when you think of offense, you think of Sean Lewis.
Yeah, to your point, I think you said it really well. I think college football fans, and by the way, if this is in fact the hire by J.D. Wicker, this is a really savvy hire. Okay, because you think about the reporting that's been going on, you didn't hear a lot of Sean Lewis, and you heard Tony White, who could be a great head coach, by the way. You heard Ken Niumatalolo, he's had success as a head coach at Navy. You heard Brennan Marion at UNLV. You only have to go back like 6 weeks when Mel Tucker was fired at Michigan State to find a short list that has Sean Lewis at the top of it. Mm-hmm. So this guy could ultimately be destined for a Power 5 job. It could have been this offseason. And for J.D. Wicker and his staff to woo him to San Diego State, I think is a huge win. Consider this. This is all you need to know, Aztec fans. And we'd love to hear from you if you want to weigh in. 70470, start it with team, or 844-570-1360. In 2020, short year pandemic, whatever. And they didn't play a lot of games. He was at Kent State. They averaged 606 yards of offense and 49.8 points.
Is that good?
He can recruit a quarterback. He was at Kent State, not resourced anything like San Diego State.
Led the nation.
They led the nation in total offense. I mean, listen to this. Bowling Green offensive coordinator, 2015, fourth in total offense. 2020 at Kent State, first in total offense. 2021 at Kent State, fifth in total offense. He's calling plays for Colorado. They averaged over 32 points per game. He gets, quote unquote, demoted.
Yeah, that's a Dion thing.
And that's a whole nother conversation. Pat Shurmur took over, right?
And
Former
the
play caller
offense
for
completely crumbled.
Completely sizzled.
Yeah.
So they went from 30-something points a game to like 19 or 20.
Yeah.
So I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done. I mentioned this, I think, during the Fusion. When Eastern Illinois came here, now with Jimmy Garoppolo as an FCS program, that staff was led by Dino Babers and by Sean Lewis. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be fascinating to see what he does with his staff.
Yeah.
It's going to be fascinating to see what they do when it comes to quarterbacks, potentially.
Yeah.
But I think if you wanted more offense at San Diego State, one thing I can basically confirm is San Diego State is going to have more offense in 2024.
Yeah, I put out on social like the immediate reaction saying like this is an amazing hire. I'm not saying it's an amazing hire because all of a sudden I think San Diego State next year is going to like win 12 games.
Nobody can guarantee anything like that.
Nobody can guarantee.
I completely agree with you.
Why I say it's an amazing hire is for everything I said at the top of the show is what I think San Diego State needed to bring here to be their next head coach. The philosophies that I wanted in the next head coach, the type of person I wanted in the next head coach. And for me, we're still going to have to learn a lot about Sean Lewis, right? We don't really know much about him as of right now. But from just the checklist standpoint, that's why I deem it to be like a really good hire. It could obviously go to crap. Like it could end up sucking, right? But his track record speaks for himself. Wherever he's gone, the offense has flourished. Wherever he has gone, the offense has been really, really good. And in this Pete Thamel article that he just posted moments ago, he said Lewis's history as a head coach, play caller, and willingness to stretch the field were all very appealing to San Diego State. Lewis had significant demand in both the head coaching market and the high-end offensive coordinator market during this coaching cycle, per sources, despite his demotion from play calling late in the season at Colorado.
Including at Oklahoma, by the way. He could have been potentially the OC at Oklahoma. So, yeah, I mean, to your point, like when you read this Pete Thamel article, and this is why I think J.D. Wicker deserves a lot of credit here, as in the fan base is asking for more offense, but J.D. Wicker and San Diego State have had success doing it the way they've done it. So it's not like you had to do it.
Yeah.
You could have said, let's rely on the 3-3-5. Let's, again, double down on defense. Let's still bring in an offensive mind to work with the defensive first head coach because we've won over the last 15 years. But they recognized potentially here that they could still be good on defense and completely reinvent their offense.
Yeah.
And that's what Sean Lewis to me signifies. It doesn't signify, to your point, 12 wins in 2024 or Power 5 football is coming tomorrow. What it signifies to me is that we know San Diego State has a blue-collar defense. They've been running the 3-3-5 for 15 years. We'll see if they still run it under Sean Lewis. But can you imagine, Jim, if you've got like a top 50 caliber defense with a much improved offense, you just create such a high ceiling for your potential. Because when you're running a really good defense, the margins are thin. When you got a top 25 defense, you're trying to beat people 17-13, 13-10, and they did it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to have a top 20 defense if you've got a top 20 offense.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there'll be a top 20 offense overnight, but the potential is there based on Sean Lewis's track record.
Yeah, and we don't know anything about, like the coaching staff or anything, right? This is hot off the press.
No doubt.
Right? We still haven't even seen an official release from San Diego State. These are just reports that Sean Lewis will be the next guy at San Diego State. But, Kurt Maddox and his time here as defensive coordinator, like, say what you want about the team, the defense has constantly delivered.
Yeah. Now, this year hasn't been as good.
No, it hasn't.
Obviously, they were 4-8.
It has not. There has been times when it's been bad. But
actually, second half of the year, though, the defense was much improved.
I was just about to say, if you look at the second half of their year defensively, just defensively, take out this.
No, you're right.
Whatever, right? Just defensively, they played a pretty damn good game defensively against Fresno State.
They did, yeah.
Like they should have won that Nevada game, held in 6 points. Okay,
2 field goals. Yeah,
they held San Jose State up in San Jose to 24 points.
Remember Utah State? They held them to 17 until overtime.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Oregon State on the road. Now, you could say what you want about that game. Oregon State maybe just, kind of calling not the best plays, but it still holding Oregon State under 30 points.
Yeah, 23 or something. Yeah.
The only game this year there are 2 games, actually. The 2 games this year where if you want to criticize defense, you go right ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Air Force and UCLA.
Yeah, no doubt. The Air Force game.
And maybe Boise State to an extent. But I think those 2 games. Okay, fine. We want to put 3 games in there. Put 3 games in there. Mm-hmm. Boise State, UCLA, and Air Force. Other than that,
but out of 12 games, the defense was solid 75%
for
of the time.
Very young defense.
Right.
So I don't know the future of Kurt Maddox. I don't know the coaching staff. I don't know any of that. I'm just saying, like, if you can keep the identity, which has been defense, and run the football over the last decade, and also infuse what Sean Lewis brings to a program, which is a high-powered offense.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I mean, sky's the limit. And that's exactly what you want as an Aztecs fan. I think seeing the 45-40 games all the time would be exciting, but it also piss you off because look at USC, right? USC this year, I think, was like almost
top 3 total offense.
At one point, they led the nation in offense.
Yep.
They didn't have a defense that could tackle worth what.
Would they lose 5 games?
Yeah.
In the end?
And their defense was atrocious.
But I don't really see San Diego State, and maybe I'm wrong. San Diego State, if they improve on offense, hopefully isn't at the expense of their defense, right? Like San Diego State is always like, look at the NFL.
Yeah.
A lot of players in secondary out of San Diego State's defense that are playing right now in the NFL. A lot of linemen, right? Right. Out of that 3-3-5 that have made it to the NFL. Like, I don't really see that changing. Like, I don't think all of a sudden, just because you concentrate more on offense with an offense first head coach, you're going to suffer for it defensively. Now, I don't know. I mean, maybe when you play at a hyper tempo, like Pete Thamel talked about, and you run 90 plays in a game,
you give your defense plenty of time to rest.
Potentially, or maybe your defense is on the field a lot because you're running plays in a quick manner.
True. But the one thing that everybody has said through this coaching search before today was not, San Diego State needs to fix their defense. It's San Diego State needs to fix their offense. It's been that way through the last decade. There's always been an emphasis from fans, from media, from national media. San Diego State's offense, it needs to be fixed. It needs to catch up to the new generation of football. That's been the thing about San Diego State. When you look at them, what needs to be fixed, it needs to be their offense. No one's talking about their defense. Right.
Nobody's like, if they could just, that's such a good point. And again, did the defense take a step back this year? Absolutely.
Yeah.
but they've been like a top 10 defense, like in the nation at times over the last 10 years.
Yeah. You can't say that about their offense.
If you could somehow match it, and like if you put a year together where you play San Diego State defense and then Sean Lewis does what Sean Lewis does, imagine the possibilities.
A top 50 defense with a top 25 offense.
And you could win a lot of games, you would think, in the Mountain West. You would think. So from the standpoint of like checking the boxes off, what I wanted to see here at San Diego State, and I think what a lot of fans wanted to see here at San Diego State, that's why I deem it to be a really good hire. It's obviously a giant yet to be, TBD here. And that's no matter who they hired.
No matter what.
I mean, they could have brought in like Jimbo Fisher. Not happening.
But I think from the direction of where they're going, offensive guy, right? It's considered to be the, you said it. Go out and hire the best coach you possibly can. Don't worry about ties to San Diego State. Don't worry about ties to San Diego at all. Go out and find the best possible coach that you can find to be next head coach here at San Diego State. You could say that they've done that, but it's obviously, TBD.
All right. We want to hear from you. Aztec fans, what do you make of this hire? Sean Lewis, Colorado OC, former head coach at Kent State, prolific offenses throughout his career, a Dino Babers disciple. Dino running offenses throughout the MAC and FCS and at Syracuse. What do you make of this hire? 844-570-1360. Kyle Glazer, Baseball America, will join us coming up at 3:30. We'll talk about Juan Soto. Will he be on the move at the winter meetings? Also, we'll be joined by Ross Dellinger at Yahoo Sports at 5 p.m. to talk more about this. Let's go to the phones, and Dave wants to weigh in on this hire. 844-570-1360. Dave, appreciate you calling in. You're on with Jon and Jim.
Yeah, I appreciate guys taking the call. And, a couple of points first to Jim's point. Yes, a lot of the boxes got checked off here. In addition, we'll have to wait and see because, he's an unknown quantity, at least at this level. But the boxes look good so far. And the key thing is the recruiting, because it's as competitive now as it's ever been with the additional pressure of nil. And secondly to that, it's going to be key to see who his assistants are, because the bulk of your recruiting is going to obviously come from that group as well. John, over to your point on defense, I would say yes. San Diego State, though, needs a lot of work on defense.
Yep.
And I'm sure you're aware of the national statistical rankings where they were at. Last time I checked, it was about the second to last game of the season. They were sitting at 121 out of 130.
So how about this, Dave? They're 69th in scoring defense this year, which by San Diego State standard is a huge step back. But out of 133, they're middle of the pack scoring defense. They're a bottom 20 scoring offense.
Well, the entire defensive statistic, John, the total team defense encompasses, as far as I know, everything as it relates to the entire defense, right? So when you're 121 out of 130, that's rotten. And they've got a lot of work to do with bringing in better athletes that can run the 3-3-5 or do something different. Whatever it is that coach decides to do, they've got to fix it, because this year they slid, and not only slid, but they slid badly. There's no question about that.
No question, Dave. Thank you for the call. I mean, the points are valid. I mean, you don't go 4-8 without taking steps back. It wasn't just one side of the football. They took a step back defensively. He's right. I thought they played better in the second half of the year. The truth is the truth. They went 4-8. They won 2 of their last 10 games. I mean, that's just a factual statement.
So, all right, let me go to this point.
Okay.
What are the concerns with Sean Lewis as new head coach of this team? Could you look at his overall head coaching record being under 500?
24-31 at Kent State.
Would you look at him being demoted midway through, or not midway through, but 8 games into this past season with Colorado?
I don't, because I read those reports then, and there was like universal clarity that like this is the wrong move by Deion Sanders, and Sean Lewis is like as good of a coach as you have on your staff, and he's about to be a head coach at the Power 5 level, and this is a mistake.
Right. Is there anything else? Because I'm trying to look at both sides here, right? You can't just look at one side and say, this is great.
Well, we're not saying, hey, they're going 12-0 next year, get your Rose Bowl tickets. But we're saying if you wanted offense, they now have the ability, you would think, based on the hire, to bring that to the Mason.
I was just playing devil's advocate.
Here's what I would say. Okay.
Yeah.
That you can look at his overall record, and I think that could be used against him. At Kent State, he went 24-31. And you say, hold on, 24-31. What's all the fuss about? His first year, they went 2-10. His last 4 years, he was over 500. Here's the other thing about Kent State that San Diego State doesn't worry about. Kent State plays 3 Power 5 teams a year for money on the road.
Because they need it because they don't have any.
They don't have the TV money.
Yeah.
They don't have the stadium. They don't have the resources. They get $5 million a year in 3 guarantee games. San Diego State plays 0 guarantees. They play a home and home where they go to like an Oregon State, and then they take on a Power 5 team like UCLA at home.
Yeah.
So that's the scheduling philosophy under J.D. Wicker. You're going from 3 Power 5 road games to a home and home with a program like UCLA and a home and home with a program like Oregon State. I just think it gives you more chances to be successful when you're not playing 3 Power 5 road games at Penn State every year.
Yeah. If I was an Aztecs fan, like I'd be excited. I'm excited personally for it, for the possibilities of it. And the fact that they went out there and they didn't hire somebody just because they had San Diego State ties. They didn't hire a coaching tree from the Rocky Long and Brady Hoke tree. They didn't go out and say, well, our identity is San Diego State's defense, so we got to hire a defensive guy. They didn't hire somebody like, that's been in college football coaching for 45 years. Like they went out and it seemed like they hired the hot guy. They went out and hired the guy that was kind of a hot commodity. They hired a guy that, is viewed around college football as an offensive innovator. And you just look at what he has done in his career. His resume speaks for itself as far as offenses go. And you hope that he can take what he has done and insert it into San Diego State and make this offense one of the top offenses in the country.
Then there's Ken Rosenthal that says, when, not if, Juan Soto is going to be moved. It could be any day. Ken Rosenthal reporting Juan Soto will be on the move. Kyle Glazer from Baseball America on the other side is going to react to that. What type of return are the Padres looking for Juan Soto? And is it inevitable? Kyle Glazer from Baseball America, Ross Dellinger on the future of the Mountain West, and also this coaching hire for San Diego State at 5 p.m. Don't go anywhere. It's Jon and Jim. All right, so Aztec fans, we're talking about this expected coaching hire on the Mesa. We've been telling you about the college area's natural grocer for the last couple of months as well. Windmill Farms, an amazing place. If you're looking for lunch during your work week, there's no better spot because they've got that sandwich card. Your 8th sandwich is free over at Windmill Farms with the sandwich card. They use the freshest, highest quality ingredients. They keep their prices incredibly low. Also, get ready for your weekends. Whatever you're doing, tailgating, watching games at home, they've got everything you could possibly need over at Windmill Farms. Organic farm fresh produce and meats, amazing craft beer and kombucha, an incredible selection. They've got that deli we've been telling you about. They're centrally located off Del Cerro Boulevard across the freeway from Montezuma Mesa. They've been family owned. Trevor, his mom, their family, they've been in the grocery business for over 20 years, supporting local businesses like Harris Ranch, Mr. G Salsa, and more. If you don't live or work near Del Cerro, no problem. You can find Windmill Farms on Instacart. Have your groceries delivered directly to your doorstep. Check out their weekly specials at windmillfarmsmarket.com. Weekly specials at windmillfarmsmarket.com. It's your perfect lunch spot during your work week. Everything you need for your tailgating and game day needs on the weekends as well. And a reminder, shop local, shop at Windmill Farms.
All right, this update is brought to you by DraftKings Fantasy Sports. We'll start with college football and the Aztecs. According to reports by Brett McMurphy and Pete Thamel, San Diego State is set to hire Colorado offensive coordinator Sean Lewis as their next head coach. And last night, San Diego State beat Point Loma at Viejas Arena 71-51 to move to 6-1 on the season. Check out what DraftKings has to offer this season with code SPORTS, because life's more fun when you're in on the action. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details today.
All right, Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, will join us at 5 p.m. More on the future of the Mountain West. There's some news with Washington State, Oregon State. Also on this head coaching hire for San Diego State, reportedly Sean Lewis, the OC at Colorado. We'll get back to that. Also, of course, checking in on the Padres. We're days away from the winter meetings. Ken Rosenthal reporting today that it's a matter of really when, not if, that Juan Soto will be traded. It's always good to catch up with Kyle Glaser from Baseball America. He's such an amazing resource for baseball fans, Padres fans, does incredible work at Baseball America. He's back with us here on Jon and Jim. Kyle, if the Padres do, in fact, move Juan Soto, what type of return should they expect?
Yeah, it's always tricky because he's only under team control for one more year, and whenever you have someone traded with only 1 year left, the package is typically lighter than fans hope for or expect. At the same time, he's a premium talent with a lot of teams who want him. When you look at the Padres, what their needs are, there has to be a young starting pitcher involved. That's just something they need organizationally, someone who they can plug into a rotation. Whether that's a team like the Mariners, who has a few arms to offer, like a Brian Wu or a Bryce Miller, the Giants are willing to throw in Kyle Harrison, something like that. I think you have to get a good young starter who's ready to pitch in the major leagues back. And you can probably get at least one other top prospect on top of that, with maybe a third piece that's sort of a guy who ranks in the 15 to 30 rank in a team system.
When you look at this whole situation with Juan Soto right now, who, not to blame, because we always play the blame game, but this was a situation that I feel like was avoidable, but now it's become their own doing for having to potentially trade Juan Soto. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think you would say that it's their fault in that they gave out some bad contracts that were ill-advised and unnecessary, and that put them in a little bit of a financial vice with not a lot of room to operate. You look at the decision to give Jake Cronenworth the extension they did when it wasn't really needed. We can talk about Xander Bogaerts being a great player. He was not the right fit for the Padres, as we've talked about extensively. So they're in a place now where they need to add multiple starting pitchers. They don't have the payroll space to do that. And this is the most efficient way for them to clear some payroll space, reallocate it toward the pitching they need, while also acquiring some good players in trade to help fill those holes. So I think it's more a matter of just they handed out some big contracts, they paid players before they needed to, and now they're in a little bit of a vice because of that.
Kyle Glaser, Baseball America, with us right now on Jon and Jim. Do you see it then, Kyle, the way others are kind of reporting it, that it's an inevitability, or is there some type of creative solution that would allow them to keep Juan Soto and field a viable team in 2024?
Yeah, I actually wrote about this for us at Baseball America, I believe it was last week, where I looked at, who are the teams that actually have the caliber of players needed to swing a deal for Juan Soto. And part of that is the Padres aren't going to trade him just to trade him. They need to feel like they're getting value back. They have stated their intention to contend in 2024. And in that sense, they're not going to trade him for a package of 3 prospects in A-ball, nor should they. It's going to come down to if the right deal emerges. Now, I will say that when you look at all the holes on this roster, they need a first baseman, not Jake Cronenworth, an actual first baseman who can mash. They need a center field upgrade over Trent Grisham. They need 3 starting pitchers and probably some middle relief help as well. That's a lot to get when you don't have that much payroll room to maneuver, and trading Juan Soto probably is the most efficient route to being able to fill all those holes. You acquire a couple players who can fill those holes in trade. You clear out salary space to go add some other players in free agency to fill out the rest of the roster. Right now, it's presently constructed. The Padres are not a playoff team. They have way too many holes on their roster. So it's a matter of, is there a Juan Soto deal that helps them round out their roster more in the present and gives them the payroll space to add the necessary pieces? If that deal is there, they should make the trade, but they shouldn't trade him just to trade him.
For all the faults of AJ Preller, and there's a lot of them, last year you can't fault him for finding Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha. Those two pitchers in particular outperformed their contracts, the reason why they opted out and they're now free agents now. Kyle, is there anybody on the free agent market that you could see as like the next Seth Lugo for the Padres that they could get for a 1 year, $7.5 million deal? Because I don't know about you, but me personally, I don't see them going out, and I don't think they have the money to go sign a pitcher for 15 to 20 million a year.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough call right there. I mean, again, you look at like old friends like Sean Manaea or Mike Clevenger. That's not something you want to do there.
Right.
It's really tough. I mean, there really isn't that obvious guys. A lot of really good starting pitchers on the market right now, but they're probably going to get more than the Padres are able to pay. This is just going to come down to good scouting, because I think, if we talked to this time last year, you looked at Michael Wacha, what he did with Boston, you could say, yeah, that was a solid signing. But Seth Lugo having the season he did was certainly a surprise. I mean, maybe it's one of the guys like Yariel Rodriguez, who pitched in Japan. He's Cuban, or Shota Imanaga, a back-end starter out of Japan as well. Do you take a shot on a guy who has been, effective when healthy, but has struggled with injuries, like a Hunter Greer or James Paxton? I don't think Michael Lorenz is the solution. Tyler Mahle maybe is a solution. Buy low. Luis Severino maybe is a buy low. It's a lot of buy low candidates, but I don't know if you feel great about any of them being the guy who has a huge bounce back year and emerges as a steal.
And with the way the pitching market is now shaping out here, Kyle, what do you expect Blake Snell to get in free agency?
Yeah, look, I mean, you're talking about a left-hander who throws 96 with 2 Cy Young awards, and who has throughout his career shown the ability to pitch at his best in the second half of seasons when it matters most. As much as there's frustration about his walks and lack of innings, he still threw 100 innings last year. There's not many lefty starters who do that. So, again, I think it's going to be something around at least 7 years, 150 million. It would not surprise me if someone gave him 200 million.
Wow. Kyle Glaser, Baseball America, is with us. Here's my question for you, Kyle. If you're the GM of the Padres, are you trying to move, and you're moving Soto, are you trying to move Soto for max return in prospect capital, or are you trying to move Soto, tie additional money to him in a bad contract, but not max your return?
You need to get the best talent back possible for Juan Soto. Period.
I agree.
It comes back to getting the best players you can for him. That should be the Padres' sole focus right now, given the state of their roster.
Jung-Hoo Lee, before you go, the Korean outfielder in the KBO that's 25 years of age. We're seeing some reports that he could be in the neighborhood. I'm making $10 million a year, 4 or 5 years, $50 million contract. I know there's a posting fee in there as well, essentially a tax. Padres had success, obviously, with Ha-Seong Kim. Are the Padres a viable candidate potentially if they free up some money for Jung-Hoo Lee or not?
Yeah, absolutely. They scout the Pacific Rim very, very aggressively, and they're one of the few teams that has a full-time Pacific Rim scout out there. Yeah, he's a really interesting, talented young center fielder. His dad is sort of a Korean baseball royalty. He was an MVP award winner, one of the best players in Korean baseball history. Jung-Hoo Lee is a contact and speed center fielder with great play discipline. He's going to get on base. He's not a ton of power, despite his home run totals in Korea. It's a little bit bandbox. But if everything clicks, you're looking at a potential leadoff hitting center fielder who gets on base and hits for a high average, which is a good player, would be a huge upgrade over what the Padres currently have in Trent Grisham. The issue is, there's such a big jump from Korea to MLB in terms of the quality of pitching. It normally takes these guys a year and a half to adjust to the caliber of pitching. As we saw with Ha-Seong Kim, it took him a little bit. Once he got it. But it's not like these are guys who can come in and hit the ground running right away. So if you do sign Jung-Hoo Lee, you have to understand you need to give him a little bit of an easy runway here in 2024. Be willing to accept the adjustment period and then hope in 2025 it clicks.
The biggest name on the free agent market, Shohei Ohtani here. This is going to heat up pretty quickly at the winter meetings here. First off, without him being able to pitch next season, would you still back up the Brinks truck for him? Like potentially a $500 million contract, or would that sway you to maybe not give him that massive deal because he's just going to be a DH next year, and we don't know how he's going to perform after his latest surgery, pitching wise, in potentially a year and a half.
Well, it's not what I would do. It's what teams are going to do. And ultimately, the bidding for him will move over $500 million when you look at what he brings offensively, the marketing and ticket sales he's going to bring to your franchise. You know, in terms of pitching, look, there's not a great track record of players having 2 UCL-related surgeries coming back and being successful starting pitchers. But Shohei Ohtani is the guy who has broken all precedent already, and he's done it multiple times. So if you're going to bet on someone to be the guy to do it successfully, it's going to be him. And ultimately, you're expecting that even if he is only able to pitch partially, or maybe has to move into a relief role, or it doesn't come back quite as good as he was before, what you're going to get with the bat, what you're going to get from the ticket sales, we're going to get from the marketing, it should pay for itself, even though we're talking about a massive dollar amount, 500 million plus.
Amazing insight, Kyle. As always, senior writer, Baseball America. Great follow on social media. Kyle A. Glaser, Glaser, San Diegan, covering baseball for Baseball America for a long time. Kyle, thank you for doing it today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime, guys.
All right, Kyle Glaser. A lot of good insight there we can react to. Plus, we're reacting to the expected hire of Sean Lewis, Colorado's offensive coordinator, to begin 2023, the expected hire by the Aztecs. Also, you'll hear from Ken Rosenthal on the other side, this when, not if, when it comes to Juan Soto, could he be dealt during the winter meetings? And are Juan Soto's days in San Diego numbered or not? That's next on the other side. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. All right, more on the Aztecs' expected hire of Colorado's OC Sean Lewis. He's been running a prolific offense for the better part of the last decade in college football. Plus, Ken Rosenthal on his reporting that Juan Soto is likely to be dealt by the Padres. Next. All right, Jon and Jim back with you. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, great reporter, really good insight with more on this expected hire here by San Diego State of Sean Lewis, plus the latest with Oregon State, Washington State, how it applies to San Diego State. We're getting clarity on that any day because the transfer portal opens up like this week.
Yeah.
So we're getting clarity there. And by the way, we said yesterday that the reason for J.D. Wicker to move on this quickly is because the portal's about to open up.
Yeah.
So like you'd rather be in front of it than behind it. And it apparently, if the reporting is accurate, they are going to be in front of it. And they're going to make this move before the portal opens up.
Here's my question for you out there if you're against Sean Lewis.
Okay.
Who did you want them to hire instead? Like,
Ooh,
who was this like magical, oh my God, that's going to change the program overnight. Season tickets are going to go flying off the shelf. They're not going to be able to sell anything in that stadium because everything's going to be full. Like, who did you want them to hire instead of Sean Lewis? Am I saying Sean Lewis is the next big thing in college football? No. Am I saying he's the greatest hire in the history of college athletics for every sport? No. What I'm saying is Sean Lewis, to me, is the right direction that this program needed to go. That's why I deem it to be a really good hire. Now we'll find out if it's good or not in the future. Of course, if it doesn't work after 3 years here, then we know that it was not a good hire. But the direction of this program, what all these boxes are that a lot of people had, what people wanted, what you kept on hearing, offense, offense, offense. They went out and they hired an offensive guy who, by the way, everywhere he's gone, the offense that he is involved with is like one of the best in the country every single year.
And literally one of the years, it was the best in the country.
Literally.
I mean, that's like literally the top best offense in the country in 2020.
And that's at Kent State.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty Incredible.
And I did the numbers. Of course, I'm not good with math, but I double checked it here. All right. Because I see people saying, well, he got demoted at Colorado. We just hired a guy that got demoted by Deion Sanders at Colorado. Yes, they did. All right. But looking at the numbers, while he was the offensive coordinator calling the shots at Colorado, they averaged about 35 points per game.
Okay.
They averaged over 400 yards of total offense. For the final 4 games of the year for Colorado, when he was not the main play caller and Pat Shurmur was the main play caller for Deion's team. Yes, I know one of those games was without Shador.
Right.
All right. The final game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
The offense averaged 273 yards of total offense and 20 points per game.
Yeah. So, I mean, a massive difference.
Now, it's not like the end all be all. It's a little sample size compared to a larger sample size. You can throw in the Oregon game there where they had under 200 yards of total offense. They scored 6 points. I get it. But this guy, he's an offensive guy through and through. And if you're an Aztecs fan, if the one thing that you have been wanting this whole time is offense, that's what JD's given you. And we'll see how it works out.
All right, you're going to hear from Sean Lewis on his offensive philosophies coming up next hour. While we have a moment, Brent, we have Ken Rosenthal today. So Ken Rosenthal today said when, not if on Soto.
Right.
Okay, he said when, not if. Soto's going to get moved. And here's why. They just have to do it. They don't have the money. They need to fill out the roster. They're going to move him. So this is Ken Rosenthal at The Athletic. He followed up on that, reporting on his podcast, had this to say.
Well, why he has to be traded, as I wrote today, basically just do the math. And the math for the Padres is that their payroll is going down. They took out a $50 million loan to meet their expenses at the end of last season, including player payroll, as we reported in The Athletic, and they're not going to be at 240 again. The numbers we've heard are closer to 200. So you're doing that, you're already at 189. Luxury tax, you're already over. You'd be over for the 4th straight year. Now, maybe they're going to do that, but Peter Seidler was the guy driving all this. And he was the one who was so passionate about bringing that World Series title to San Diego and making it happen. I don't know that the people who are succeeding him in the executive positions are as enthusiastic. They are most likely more mindful of the bottom line than Peter Seidler was. So from that perspective alone, keeping Soto at $33 million or whatever it's going to be in arbitration doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially when it's unlikely, extremely unlikely, you're going to re-sign him. He's already turned down $440 million. You've got Tatis, Bogarts, Machado on the books, as well as Darvish for huge money. There has to be a limit, I am sure, even for the Padres. The other element to this, and this is as important an element as the financial part of it to me, their pitching is in shambles, and it's in shambles because they've had so many free agent defections. I'm talking not just about Snell, but about Waka, Lugo, Nick Martinez, and in the bullpen, Luis Garcia, and, oh, yes, the closer, Josh Hader. I added it up last night. It's like 700 innings combined. You've got to get pitching. Who is the one player on your roster who can get you some level of pitching? It's Juan Soto, and then you take the money you save by not paying him, and you spend it on some other pitching as well. That, to me, is the obvious choice for them. I'm not saying it's certain to happen, but the way I phrased it in my story, it's almost certain he will be traded. I strongly believe that.
Almost certain, not certain. Almost certain.
Man, they have a lot to replace.
It's only 700 innings, Jim.
It's
Relax.
700?
700, you can.
At least it's not 800.
I mean, how many innings is that? Like 700 divided by 9 is what?
You do it.
A lot. Oh, that's a lot. What is that?
I don't
70
know.
games? More than 70 games. It's 80 games. Because 700 divided by 10 is 70.
Well, yeah, it's 3 starting pitchers and Nick Martinez, who's a spot starter.
So half of the innings of the season are gone and have to be replaced. Half of the innings of a season are gone. That's why they're going to move Juan Soto. In this spot. This is their own doing.
Yep, their own fault.
It's on them. You're going to hear from Sean Lewis on the other side, expected to be named the next Aztecs head coach. Also, still to come, Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, will join us at 5 p.m. Next hour, in the 4 o'clock hour, we've got a 4-pack of tickets to give away to SeaWorld San Diego's Christmas celebration. Hour 2, Jon and Jim next.
is brought to you by DraftKings Fantasy Sports. We'll start with the Aztecs, according to reports. Brett McMurphy and Pete Thamel. New head coach at San Diego State will be offensive coordinator from Colorado, Sean Lewis. Moving over to Aztecs basketball. Last night, they beat Point Loma 71-51 at Viejas Arena to improve to 6-1 on the year. Check out what DraftKings has to offer this season with Code Sports, because life's more fun when you're in on the action. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions do apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details today.
Getting close to that time. Yep, that time. Quitting time. And there's only one way to handle that drive home. John Schaefer and Jim Russell.
How are we feeling right now? Jim, I'll start with you. I mean, do you have any feel for where this is going in terms of a timeline or a direction that J.D. Wicker could be looking? And how curious are you about this hire that's about to come at some point, probably this week or next, for San Diego State?
Well, JD told us that they expect to have a new head coach in here by the middle of December. For college football, especially with recruiting and getting your coaching staff all ready, transfer portal, like you got to get a coach in here.
Or today.
Or like literally an hour and a half ago.
San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? It's hour 2 of Jon and Jim. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, will join us at 5 p.m. with more on this coaching hire for San Diego State. Expected to be Sean Lewis, the OC at Colorado, who has run a prolific offense for years across FBS football. Typically when we talk about Jon and Jim, we talk about Brent, me, and Jim, right? Brent produces the show. Jim sits here. What? And I host the show.
I don't
He stands sometimes.
I move around.
Right. Now, in addition to having Brent as our producer, of course, we have Darnay Tripp, NBC7. So Darnay put on social media within the last handful of minutes a quote from Sean Lewis about the type of offense that he runs. And it's a really cool quote. And I then texted Darnay, said, you have the audio of the quote? Because he just put the words in the tweet. He said, stand by, I'm going to send it to you. So he sends it to us, and it's like an 8.5-minute clip, and he sent it to Jim, not me. And Jim freaks out. He's like, 8.5 minutes, Darnay. Like, where is this thing? I'm not going to look through this entire 8.5-minute clip. He's like, read the subject line of the email, you idiot.
Okay.
And I'm like, this is what I deal with every single day. Let me guess. The subject line was start the audio at the 32-second mark and go to 52.
So, yeah, I didn't read that right away. I just saw it.
You didn't read.
I didn't read it. I saw the email from Darnay. I saw it said Darnay Tripp. And then I immediately just forwarded it to Brent without looking at any details of the email whatsoever.
Right. Hoping Brent would just do the work.
Well, yeah. I mean, what? And then I sent it to Brent. And then I think the question was where is it here? And I was like, wait, where is it, Darnay? And Darnay's like, read it, you idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't read it right away while I was on the radio and sending it to Brent. My bad.
So the subject line literally said 27 seconds.
I literally told you. I just said I didn't read it. I saw from Darnay Tripp, and I immediately forwarded it to Brent without reading it at all.
Okay, so is this
you haven't done it before? You have never saw an email and never read it and just forwarded it to somebody that needed it?
I have done that.
Exactly.
I have done that. But I like to be critical of you.
Thank you.
So therefore, I'm going to pretend like you're an idiot.
But
which is what Darnay is doing as well.
Darnay, just thanks for producing our show.
You're the EP. You're the executive producer of Sports Wrap, right?
Damn media expectations again.
Here's the thing. I want Darnay to do more work for us and continue to give him nothing. As in, I want him to Darnay, if you have stories or sound or audio for us or something you think we should be talking about, please share that with us. That now becomes kind of your job. We'll get the credit for it. Yeah. You'll get no credit, no money, recognition.
Or just continue to share it on your social platforms
and we'll just steal it. And we won't even give you credit.
Exactly.
Typically, which is what we've already been doing.
We do that all the time here. We just steal everything from everybody.
Brent, you know when this is is this Sean Lewis at Colorado? When you look at or was he at Kent State talking about the type of offense?
Colorado.
Okay, Sean Lewis at Colorado talking about the type of offense he runs.
This is from 8 months ago.
8 months ago. Take a listen to this.
Yeah, I like going fast. Me and Ricky Bobby got that in common. I want to go fast, right? So, I've been playing this way for over a decade now. So I like the intensity, the energy, and the pace of play. We can get a lot done. Our kids can work really efficient, and we get a lot of volume, which is good.
All right. He likes a highly efficient, hyper tempo Ricky Bobby. You know the reference there? It's to WWE or something.
I was just gonna say, do you even know
To
who Ricky
CM
Bobby
Punk.
is?
It's a CM Punk reference.
What?
I don't know. It's the NASCAR, right?
Hey, here's another thing I can steal from Darnay.
Okay, great. Yeah, he didn't even hear the clip. He's already at Darnay's Twitter page.
No, I heard it. I like it. This is exactly what I wanted. Like, I wanted a guy who would come in here, offensive minded, offense first
That's
guy.
what you asked for.
And hopefully that turns this team into a top offense in all of college football.
Mm-hmm.
But Darnay tweeted out something moments ago that I'm going to steal right now. I'm giving him credit. Yeah, I could have just read this quote without giving him any credit. There's audio here, but I'm just going to read it. This is from Shedeur Sanders on Sean Lewis.
Okay, Shedeur Sanders on Sean Lewis. Okay.
Quote, each and every day and each and every period, he pushes me to grow in different areas. It's the little things that matter to him. I'm extremely grateful he's the offensive coordinator.
That was Shedeur. Okay. Interesting. So when was this, Jim? Before the season?
I don't know. Darnay didn't put it out there. So
Come on, Darnay.
Come on, man.
Gosh. Killing
Bro,
me,
we're
Jim.
trying to steal all of your content right now. Be better.
This quote unquote demotion of Sean Lewis 8 games into the season, literally to me means less than nothing. Now, again, maybe I'm biased here, but even in real time, we may have touched on it briefly. I read a lot of the reports in real time, and the overall consensus from media, coaches, and others was, what on earth is Colorado doing?
Yeah.
Sean Lewis has run an effective offense for Shedeur Sanders, and you're trying to salvage this season by changing your play caller because all of a sudden you're not 3-0 anymore?
Yeah. It's his fault that you guys...
Right. You were still scoring. You just tweeted out 34, 35 points a game.
Yeah. It's the people that complain about that who only read headlines. If you only read headlines and you never read the articles, or you never dive deeper into reasons why things happen, and you're just a headline reader, then you'll obviously be the person that goes out and says, well, Sean Lewis was demoted. I can't believe they hired a guy that got demoted. Instead of looking at, well, actually, while he was the offensive coordinator, the offense was really good. Was it his fault they lost these games? Was it his fault that they blew a 29-0 lead versus Stanford?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a great point.
Like, it's the same argument that goes to Kyle Shanahan when the Falcons lost the Super Bowl against the Patriots. They scored a bunch of points in that game versus the Patriots, but everybody blames Kyle Shanahan for that loss.
Yeah.
When you maybe should look at the head coach and the defense that allowed Tom Brady to get back in that game.
It's a great point. It is a great point. I mean, look at it this way. 3 games into the season, Colorado had the best offense in America and 2 Heisman frontrunners. A team that won 1-11 a year ago, right? Sanders and Travis Hunter, through 3 games, this team's averaging 600 yards of total offense. He literally, I read something earlier today. They're like, what he called at TCU week 1. Remember this game? 10 million plus viewers. Deion's debut. I read something earlier from a coach that essentially said Sean Lewis called a perfect game at TCU this year. The first game of the season when Shedeur threw for 500 yards. And again, he had Shedeur Sanders and he had weapons. But Sean Lewis called a perfect game at TCU to start the year. Yet I'm supposed to believe that this isn't the right direction that San Diego State should go. You know what I mean? Or that he should have been demoted as a play caller. He called a perfect game against a team that was in the national championship a year ago.
Should you expect this Aztecs team in the next couple of years to all of a sudden be a top 5 offense in all of college football? That's probably expectations that maybe be a little too high.
Sure.
Okay. Hey, right away, this guy should automatically go undefeated in the Mountain West Conference, win a conference championship, and be eligible for the college football expanded playoffs. Let's start low here. Okay, they're 4-8 last year. If next year they win 8 games, that's a major improvement. Major improvement. It's going to take time.
Yeah,
but I think you want to give time to a guy like this, who is offense if he's offense first. All right. And everything they did at Colorado, you could say, yeah, I want that here. Now, obviously, the players matter a lot. He's going to have to recruit well. He's going to have to bring in a quarterback. It's very interesting, the quarterbacks that decommitted from Colorado the last couple of days, how this is all shaped out, right? And Danny O'Neal, I believe, is one of the quarterbacks, 3-star recruit that decommitted from Colorado. Darren mentioned it about how he said that one of the main reasons why he verbally committed to Colorado was because of Sean Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be all interesting. I don't expect them to all of a sudden, win a conference championship next year, but the mindset of where this team wants to go, I think is the right mindset. Offense first.
Man, I love the haters because it kind of brings new life to the show. So keep them coming. 70470 started with team, or call us 844. It's so funny. The haters are always on the text line. They never call. 844-570-1360. 609 says, great, bro. The Aztecs hired some obscure high school coach. Dude almost got fired at Colorado. Okay, tell me you don't know anything without telling me you don't know anything.
Headline reader.
360, is Colorado's offense good? I know 4 wins is really great, so I assume so. Again, tell me you know nothing about what's transpired here. They were 1-11 last year, and they scored 35 points per game under Sean Lewis. I mean, was Colorado ever going to go from 1-11 to 11-1? What happened was very realistic. Them going 4-8 this year should come as no surprise. Turning over their entire roster and winning 3 more games than they did a year ago. It's not like the whole thing was a complete and utter failure. It wasn't. Now, after 3 games, people thought Colorado was going to a national championship game. That was never realistic, but they had all the hype train with Deion Sanders. So Sean Lewis, for what San Diego State was trying to accomplish, again, to your point, name the guy you wanted. I'm not seeing that on the text line. I'm not seeing it in the chat. I'm not seeing it on the phone lines. Oh, man, they hired Sean Lewis. Why didn't they hire X?
Yeah, but these people, it doesn't matter who they hired. Their comment wouldn't change. Someone said in the text line, they should have waited and hired Bill Belichick. If they would have hired Bill Belichick, the same people would be bitching that I hired Bill Belichick and that they shouldn't have done that. So it doesn't matter who they hire to some of these people because they're just waiting to complain about it no matter what.
Like if you wanted to say, yeah, I wanted them to hire the offensive coordinator from Washington,
Ryan Grubb.
That's perfectly acceptable.
No doubt.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
Ryan Grubb is, what he's done at Washington, that's been amazing. Now, granted, he has
Heisman front
probably a top 5 NFL draft pick at quarterback for next season, maybe top 2, right? Depending on what happens. We all know Caleb Williams is going number 1, but I understand if you want to say Ryan Grubb, there you go. But if your complaint against Sean Lewis is he's not is what he got demoted as offensive coordinator from Colorado, yet you look at the numbers as while he was offensive coordinator there, and they average over 400 yards of offense and over almost 35 points a game. And when he was at Kent State, they took him to a bowl game for the first time, and
they've been to 4 bowl games ever,
and
he
took
them to 2 of them.
And oh, by the way, led the country in total offense everywhere. Syracuse is another place that he's been.
But John, right? But Jim,
yeah,
that's the amazing thing about it. But then, they could have hired Tony White. I would have been a fan of it. I would have been a proponent of it. You know what we would have heard? How could you not go offense? How could you stick with this coaching tree? You could have cast a wide net. You've got resources.
I think they did.
That's what I'm saying. Like, no matter no matter the hire,
I am not the biggest college football aficionado. Would you say that?
No, but you're better because of me.
That's true. But I look at people who are like a Pete Thamel, like a Brett McMurphy, like who we're going to be talking to coming up here, Ross Dellinger. What have they said about Sean Lewis? Because what they've said about Sean Lewis has been pretty damn positive as far as looking at him as a hot candidate, one of the most innovative offensive minds in college football. Maybe not like the most offensive, innovative mind, but I mean, his resume speaks for itself. Every single year that he has been coaching in college football, well, not every year, but since he became the head coach at Kent State, what has his offenses done? Oh, that's right. They've ranked towards the top of the nation. Like, if that doesn't happen next year, will I say that this hire is horrible? No. but I would bet that there's going to be some improvement there. I would hope so. And this is all a wait and see, right? We don't know if Sean Lewis is going to be good or not. We have no idea.
Right.
But I do think the direction that they've gone here and the mindset that they have taken and said that, look, we need to change our offense. We need to join the 21st century. That to me is the exciting part of it. And then you see what happens. No one knows if he's going to be good or not. So to automatically say he's going to be a disaster hire right away without watching this play out, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's so unfair. It's such a good point. It's like, we're not going to know week 2 of 2024.
No.
You're not going to know. I mean, some of these things take times. It's like trades or other hires in other sports. Like, you got to give it a little bit of time. This team's coming off a 4-8 season. To your point, I mean, I would think, I'm speaking off the cuff, I would think bowl eligibility next year is a really nice bump from a 4-win season. You win 6, 7, 8 times next year. You've had a lot more success than going 4-8. Nobody's saying they're going 12-0 next year.
No.
You take it. But I don't think that's the point of the hire. I don't think the point of the hire is we got to go 12-0 next year and make the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
I think the point of the hire is let's get a lot better on offense. Let's bring some sizzle. Pete Thamel talked about that with this hire. And let's see what we can accomplish over the next 2 to 4 to 5 years with Sean Lewis. Can we, over the course of a little bit of time, combine a really good defense, which we've played here, with a prolific offense, and with an expanded playoff, make a run at a playoff spot at some point in the future? And I think that's what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's why I view this as an exciting hire just from the mindset standpoint, right? They chose, and credit to JD, like we all said it, mostly me, but a lot of people, Darren as well, like they need to fix the offense. They went out and hired a 37-year-old head coach, offensive coordinator, that everywhere he's been in college football has ranked at the top of college football according, for offenses.
Right.
Tell me what you want. Did you want that? Because that's what they went out and got. We'll see if it works, but that's what they're giving you.
Was it Sean Lewis's fault they scored 41 points against USC and lost? Was it Sean Lewis's fault they scored 43 points against Stanford and lost?
Oh, but
they went 4-8. He's okay.
They won 4 games with him as the offensive coordinator. They won 0 with him out.
With Pat Shermer. Good point. And they could have easily, again, they lost an overtime game, 2 overtimes at Stanford. The 48-41 game against number 8 SC. Like got big into that game late.
USC's frauds. We know that now. And if you want to say, what about Oregon game? Dude, Oregon's at a different level, bro.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Oregon could be in the playoff this year.
Yeah.
And Colorado went 1-11 last year.
Yep. Nebraska, they were about to hire Tony White potentially. And he scored how many points against Tony White's defense against Nebraska?
Good question. The answer is 36.
Okay. So they were potentially going to hire a Tony White, who I think Aztec fans would have welcomed, has Aztec ties. You look at the defense at Nebraska, it's been very good.
Yep.
Well, the guy they hired put up 36 points against them.
Mm-hmm.
And how many yards? I think, let me check here. Was that the second game of the year, John?
Second game of the year.
They put up 454 yards of total offense against Nebraska.
Right. One of the top 20 defense in the country.
And there were people out there that wanted Tony White. So that's what he did. Again,
you can't please everyone.
No,
I don't think that's the point of the hire, but but what you can do is try to accomplish your goals. What I said the whole time, and you ended up being, I said hire the best coach for the job. Offense, defense, whomever, hire the best coach. And I could certainly make an argument they did that here. I think a lot of people, I think 9 and 10 said, hire the best offensive coach for the job. Now, he might be the best coach as well. But if you wanted the best offensive coach for the job, how can you complain today?
Yeah, you got one of. I mean, I wouldn't consider him to be the clear-cut, runaway, number one offensive guy on the market to be the next head coach in college football. But I would put him up there with the group of offensive-minded next head coaches in college football. And that's what they did. That's why I'm excited about the hire. That's why I'm excited, because I look at the numbers, and at first you're like, Sean Lewis, who's this guy? Right? Like, who? It's not like a big name. It's not a Cliff Kingsbury. Okay? I understand that. But then you dive deeper and you look at the numbers and you look at what he's done and what he's accomplished. And then you start getting excited. You're like, oh, this is interesting. And then you start hearing what he has to say about offense. And then you start hearing what people have to say about him for offense, right? You start hearing what Shadur Sanders has said about him. You start hearing what Pete Thamel and Brett McMurphy and other people in college football are saying about Sean Lewis. And then you start getting excited and you're like, oh, this could be interesting. Like, this is kind of exciting. And then you have to see what happens.
I'm excited about it. And some people disagree with it. And I see in the chat, you're overhyping them. Is Shador coming with him? Well, are they playing in the Pac-12 next year? And we didn't say they're all of a sudden going 12-0 next year. Like, if you're listening to our words, we're saying there's reasons for optimism and excitement.
Yeah, I never
and
said
if you
that.
give it time,
I even said they could not do good next year.
yeah, nobody, by the way, we don't know it's a great hire.
No.
We're telling you our opinion based on the hire that they've made today.
Surface level, give me a piece of paper with what you wanted. They've checked off the boxes for me. And that's why I like it. And it could, and people don't understand this too. Opinions can change. They always can change. I can sit here today and say, I like this hire. It's exciting to me. It checks off the boxes because I wanted a hot guy candidate in here that was an offensive-minded first guy and has had experience in college football on his resume. That's what they got.
That's what you got.
But guess what? He can come in here and it could suck. And it could look worse. And it could look bad. And it could all go to hell. And then your opinion changes of, well, yeah, this was not good. This ended up not being good.
Yeah, or they could go 12-1 in 2025 and be in the college football playoff because nobody has any idea what the future holds.
Yeah, and people can say they're wrong. People can always say they're wrong. So if it doesn't turn out bad, then I'll be the first person to say, yeah, well, didn't work out. Wrong about that one. Move on.
On the other side, let's get to the wrap. Also still ahead this hour, your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to SeaWorld's San Diego Christmas celebration, plus Ross Dellinger on this hire, the future of the Mountain West, Oregon State and Washington State. He'll join us at 5 p.m. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. All right, the wrap on the other side. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, on the Aztecs' expected hire of Sean Lewis at 5 p.m. Stay with us.
All right, this update is brought to you by Macy's Backstage. We'll start with the Aztecs football team. According to multiple reports, the Aztecs have found their next head coach. He'll be offensive coordinator from Colorado, Sean Lewis. Moving over to Aztecs basketball, last night they took on Point Loma at Viejas Arena, and they won 71-51, improving to 6-1 on the year. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? How about the perfect holiday gifts? Just $25 and under, like matching family PJs, John, fragrance sets, toys, and more. Find the latest trends, new arrivals, and great prices at Macy's Backstage store near you.
Should we get a matching PJ set?
You two should.
Okay. All right, Jon and Jim back with you. We're going to get to the wrap in a moment. And then we've got a great, you know what? You know, Brent, let's get to it at 5:30. Let's get to it at 5:30. Ross Dellinger is going to join us at 5 p.m. Yahoo Sports with more on Sean Lewis. We've got this 4-pack of tickets to SeaWorld San Diego to give away in about 15 minutes. There was something else we were talking. Oh, yeah, matching pajamas, me and you on air, Christmas. I'm not going to do that.
Matching PJs?
Yeah,
Some footy pajamas.
Yeah, like the onesie type thing.
If I bought you a onesie, would you wear it?
Not if it's like I have your Pikachu hat in my trunk for last month.
Oh, thanks. I've been looking for that.
We washed it.
Actually, I haven't. Thanks.
Yeah, it's washed.
Awesome. That's very nice.
I think Jones wore it. He did. Yeah.
Jones likes it. He can keep it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Early Christmas.
Pikachu onesie?
Does he even know who Pikachu is? Or
I
does
told
he just
him,
like?
and
Did he just like the?
He thinks
hat?
he's CM Punk. He's very confused.
Okay.
I don't think we really need matching PJs.
Yeah. No. Me and Aaron did matching PJs last year.
We have family.
Yeah.
Like the Christmas, like stripes.
Yeah, I got the match.
Yeah.
She's mentioned it. Like she wants to get matching PJs with Bentley. So.
But do they do that? Like the adults and the dog?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
They do that.
I didn't realize that.
Dogs, you can buy anything for a dog.
That's a great point. You really can.
Like Brent just bought some amazing new gear for Peanut.
Yeah, she got a whole bunch of new clothes.
She got.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because Peanut, because it's wintertime, and like put like a sweater on.
yeah. She's
Yeah.
got hoodies and she's got. I bought her pajamas. They haven't come yet, but
See, it's like
It's amazing.
Well, Boston's they don't have a lot of hair, especially like on their belly. They're pretty much bald, so they get cold really easy. So when we go out at night or too early in the morning, she won't go outside without a hoodie or something on.
Good thing we don't work on Antarctica Sports 760 with Peanut. Peanut be wearing like parkas.
What are we talking about there?
Hey, it's cold.
It's very cold here.
We're like
back to you.
Exactly.
Ice fishing world championships.
Right. Exactly.
Can't believe they hired Sean Lewis to be the ice fishing head coach.
All right, let's get to it.
It's time for The Wrap, presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
What would a successful season look like next year for Aztec football?
Well, more than 4 wins, first off. I think you get to a bowl game, that would be deemed successful for sure, coming off of a season where you missed out in a bowl game for the first time in 13 seasons.
Right.
So I would go that route. Anything more, I think, would just be gravy. Like, this is a stretch at this moment in time. But if they were able to compete for a Mountain West championship next year, like that is the ultimate thing that you want to do right away. But knowing that it takes time, and it will take time, and a new head coach, you give him a year or two, right? I would say 5 wins, 6 wins, bowl appearance would be definitely considered a successful season.
Completely agree. Completely agree. I think you go 4-8, you have to be reasonable. That doesn't mean just because you make a hire, you're going 10-2. I mean, anything is possible.
Anything, yeah.
Especially with NIL and portal. I think if they get to a bowl game next year and they get back to that trajectory where you're winning more than the year prior, would be a win. I really do believe that. I think 6 or 7 wins next year, and we haven't seen the entirety of the schedule. It still could change with this Oregon State, Washington State stuff. But yeah, I think 6 or 7 wins would be a good year coming off a 4-8 season.
And being realistic about everything, if they're competing for, not if, but like that's the goal, is you want to be competing for a Mountain West Conference championship by at least no later than year 3.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if not year 2, maybe that's too aggressive.
Could be. We'll see how year 1 is.
Yeah, true.
If year 1 actually turns out to be like, oh my God, they won 8 games this year, then you're thinking next year we should
win 9+ games.
We should be competing for a Mountain West Conference championship.
Yeah,
but it all depends on what you do in year 1.
Next question:
Can the Padres be a playoff team in 2024?
They can, because the bar is so low to get in the playoffs. It's 84 wins. Now, will that be the same next year? I don't know. But as of right now, 84 wins, 86 wins, like that's the bar. It's not that high. And with the disaster of this past season, winning 82 games, granted they played quad A teams for the final 17 games of the year to give them that extra boost to make it look better than it actually was. Yeah, they can make the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously have work to do, and that's why they're talking about maybe moving Juan Soto to improve the overall quality of the roster. But I agree with you. I mean, there's a lot of examples of teams coming off bad years that the next year are good. Look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, for example. They clearly have work, and there's no guarantee. And I don't know what odds I'd put on it, them making the postseason, because there's so much to determine between now and opening day. But I agree with you. You don't have to win 95 games. This isn't 1999. Win 85 games, you're in the conversation. So, yes, they can. We'll find out if they will or not based on the moves they make this offseason, potentially. Next question.
Have you guys been intrigued yet by the NBA in-season tournament?
Dude, no, not even close. Let me see if I still have it. I think I bookmarked it. It was a list of scenarios for certain teams to like advance. And I started reading it. I'm like, what casual fan is going to understand this crap? Like, let me just read you clinching scenarios. I don't even know if this has happened or not. I don't care. For the Charlotte Hornets to clinch a wild card.
Yeah, what do they need?
The following would have to occur.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Charlotte would have to win plus a Cleveland loss, plus a Miami loss, plus a Boston loss, plus a Brooklyn loss, plus Charlotte would have to finish in second place in group and wins tiebreakers over any second place team from the other group.
I could see that happening.
New
I mean,
York.
who even cares who it? Just tell me who's in the quarterfinal.
Yeah, dude. And all this has to do with point totals and stuff
That's
too.
ridiculous.
So when you throw in point totals and you throw in tiebreakers and all that crap that the casual fan does not give two you know what's about, you have completely lost me. And honestly, you lost me after the first day, because to me, this should have been done already. Like, why are we
just
having
do it in 2 weeks?
Why are we having tournament games and then regular games and then a tournament game 2 weeks later? Like, you have to do it in a row to keep the fans engaged, and they didn't do that, and they lost a lot of fans. I think
I would just say this real quick
for the tournament.
The Final Four in Vegas, I think gets eyeballs. As stupid as that sounds, first of all, viewership is up for these in-season tournament games for whatever reason.
The Lakers are in it.
Once you get it to Vegas and it's got like a little bit of like a regional setting, or it's new and it's just different. You got a double header in the NBA. I think that's what it is, followed by a championship or whatever. Again, I get it. It's not the championship, but I do think for November, December stuff, it'll probably draw eyeballs and create money, which is what they're trying to do.
The Lakers play the Phoenix Suns, and I think the winner moves on to Vegas.
Yeah.
The Lakers make it, you're going to get eyeballs for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But other than that, it's been a disaster.
Next question.
Will the Aztecs average 30 points per game next season?
What are they averaging this year?
Great
Not
question.
30.
Not 30 points?
No.
I can't say yes, they will, without knowing who their quarterback is and what other moves they make in the portal and NIL, or not NIL, but recruiting and all that. Like, I don't know. I want to say they're average 30 points a game, but I think I could say over the time that Sean Kelly will be here, how many years will they average 30 points per game? So
20.
if he's here, 20 years.
Oh, they average 20
No,
points.
20 points.
Oh, they
a
average
game.
20 points a game. Okay, not good at all.
20? Is that what it is exactly, Brent?
20.50, so 20 and a half.
How about this?
Yeah,
by
111th in scoring offense.
by year 2, will this Aztecs team average
30 points a game.
per
That's
game?
good. I say yes.
I say yes too.
I say yes. I think now here's the question I would ask. I'm with you. 30 might be aggressive for year one. Will they add a touchdown to that total next year? I could see it. Can you go from 20 and a half to 27 and a half?
27, 26?
Because there's your toss-up game.
Because then you win Nevada game. Then you
how many
probably win
games
the
did
Boise
they lose
game.
this year where it's like, oh, they lost by 7. Oh, they lost by 8. Boise. There's a
5 or
couple
6.
in there.
5 or
Colorado
6.
State. It was like, so if you could score another touchdown, easier said than done,
Yeah.
then maybe you're winning a couple of more games.
Yeah, look, it was a bad year. It was a bad year. It was not good. Okay, they got their Aztecs fans are getting the change that they wanted. But there were a lot of games this year that were one-score games, and I think if Jalen Maiden doesn't fumble at the inch line versus Boise State, that's a completely different game. If Jalen Maiden doesn't fumble against Nevada, or was it Nevada? Yeah, Nevada. Trying to drive
20,
to score
25.
a game-winning touchdown.
Yep.
Completely different, right? There's 2 wins right there. And then a couple games here and there, right? Like, who knows? But
Who knows?
yeah, who knows? Not taking away that it was a bad year for the Aztecs.
All right, on the other side, we're going to get to Trainwreck Radio. You need to call right now. This is trivia. If you want a chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to SeaWorld San Diego's Christmas celebration, great giveaway worth hundreds of dollars. A 4-pack of ticket to SeaWorld San Diego's Christmas celebration. First 2 callers will be our contestants. So pick up the phone right now and call 844-570-1360. 844-570-1360. First 2 callers will be contestants for Trainwreck Radio. It's a 4-pack of tickets to SeaWorld San Diego's Christmas celebration. Great family gift idea experience for the holidays. 844-570-1360. First 2 callers are our contestants. That's next. Trainwreck Radio on the other side. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, on the Aztecs' expected hire of Sean Lewis. He'll join us at 5 p.m. I forgot we had a show to do.
There's a lot of things happening.
Okay, so
it's not 6 yet?
Right. Ross Dellinger is going to join us at 5. Let's just get right to it, Brian.
All right, 3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline. Today's 2 contestants, we have Marcos and Diane. Marcos, you called in first, so you have your choice of Jon or Jim. Who do you want to go with?
Oh, well, I played a couple times before. I've always been with Jim. I haven't lost yet, so I'm with Jim.
Let's go, Marcos.
Oh my gosh.
Let's
So always
go.
go with Jim.
I like it. Diane, that means you get Jon, all right?
Yes.
All right. Brent, what is today's question of the day?
All right, guys. Last night during the Lakers' 44-point ass kicking they got from the 76ers, LeBron set the record for most minutes played all time, including the playoffs. Today's question: name anybody else in the top 10 for most minutes played all time, including the playoffs.
All right. Most minutes played in NBA history, including
the playoffs, because it's a different list if you don't include the playoffs.
In-season tournament is like regular season games. All right, Diane, you're up first. What's your first guess? You do have your lifeline if you choose to use it.
Well, let's go for Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, on the list. Well
Kobe
done.
Bean Bryant.
Yeah, well
good,
done.
Good guess. 20 years and multiple. Yeah. Marcos, you're up next. What is your first guess? You do have your lifeline if you choose to use it.
I'm going to go with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Kareem on the list. Played forever. There we go. Diane, you're up next. Second guess. You do have your lifeline if you choose to use it. What do you got?
All right, I'll just go back to Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Long career, but missed 2 years. Not crazy long.
Not crazy long. No. Not
Those
crazy
2 years
long.
of the Wizards.
And he
but
never
missed
went
2.
7 games in the playoffs, so all of his
Good point.
playoff runs were short.
Good point.
Yeah. Is he really the GOAT?
Yes.
How does that
I
impact
agree.
LeBron's?
Yeah, how does this impact LeBron's legacy? Marcos, you're up next. What is your next guess? You do have your lifeline if you choose to use it.
Let's see. How about the mailman, Karl Malone?
Karl Malone.
Wow.
Good guess. Good guess. Diane, you're up next. You need this to stay in the game. What is your final guess? You do have your lifeline still if you want to use it.
Okay, I'll use my lifeline.
All right, lifeline.
Okay. I mean, this is going way back.
Come on, John.
Come on,
know.
John.
I mean, I'm gonna say it. I mean, he won 10 titles. He played for 20 years, right? Bill Russell.
Bill Russell. Do you take that or do you have another guess, Diane?
Sounds good, Bill Russell.
Bill Russell.
Oh my god! I would have said. What about Dirk? Is
no.
Dirk on this list?
Yes, Dirk is on the list.
Oh, Diane!
Idiot.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
I've literally let Diane down.
You've let down Diane. She's now devastated. because
She's
of
never
you.
listening again.
She's we've just lost listeners.
We lost a
See,
listener.
when you said you were going to go old school, I thought you were going to go Wilt Chamberlain, which would have been correct.
Ah!
But you went the other side and you went
Idiot.
Bill Russell.
Is John Stockton on the list?
He is. He was number 10.
All right. There we go. That was gonna be my guess.
Is I don't know.
Brent, who's on the list?
Oh, Vince Carter.
Vince Carter.
No, well, Vince Carter has the most games played,
Oh,
not
how
most
about that?
minutes.
Oh,
But yeah,
minutes.
Yeah, this
Minutes,
is minutes,
bro.
not games.
AI.
No. LeBron's number 1.
Victor Oladipo.
Yes.
Victor
How did you know?
Wembanyama.
LeBron's number 1, Kareem's 2, Karl Malone's 3, Kobe's 4, Dirk was 5, Tim Duncan was 6.
Heard of him.
Jason Kidd was 7.
Yeah.
Kevin Garnett
Yeah, he's pretty
was
good.
8.
Good list.
Then Wilt, and then John Stockton.
Yeah.
And then Oladipo.
Very good list.
All right.
Victor
Congratulations, Marcos. You've won a
Kawhi?
4-pack of tickets to SeaWorld San Diego's Christmas celebration, where the wonders of the sea meet the joy of Christmas at SeaWorld San Diego Christmas celebration. From underwater discoveries to San Diego's largest Christmas tree, the Sky Tower parade, real reindeer, and photos with Santa. Taste heartwarming traditions and sing along to a stocking full of soul featuring America's Got Talent finalist Brian Cheatham. It's a holiday celebration filled with wondrous moments only at SeaWorld San Diego, November 17th through January 7th. Ross Dellinger on the Aztecs' expected hire of Sean Lewis will join us next to kick off Hour 3 of Jon and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Macy's Backstage. We'll start with the Aztecs. According to multiple reports, they have hired their next head coach. It will be Sean Lewis. He was the offensive coordinator for Colorado this past season. Moving over to Aztecs basketball last night, Aztecs took on Point Loma and won 71-51, improving to 6-1 on the season. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? What about the perfect holiday gifts? Just about $25 and under, like matching family PJs, fragrance sets, toys, and more. Find the latest trends, new arrivals, and great prices at a Macy's Backstage near you.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is the final hour of Jon and Jim here. We're with you until 6 o'clock. We're reacting to the news of the day here in San Diego, the expected hire of Sean Lewis by San Diego State. And let's talk about that and more with Ross Dellinger. There's more to report as well on the futures of Oregon State and Washington State, what it means for the Mountain West and San Diego State. We've got Ross Dellinger with us from Yahoo Sports. Ross, correct me if I'm wrong. You're a Mississippi State grad, right?
I am. I'm from the Louisiana, Mississippi coast, and went to Mississippi State, and now live in D.C.
So you have that in common with San Diego State's athletic director, J.D. Wicker, who's a Mississippi State grad.
That's right. We are both Bulldogs, correct?
All right. So then, from your perspective, covering college football nationally and looking at this from afar, what do you make of, again, the expected reported hire of Colorado's OC to start the year, former head coach at Kent State, Sean Lewis, reportedly to San Diego State? What do you make of this news?
Yeah, Sean had an incredible run at Kent State, a place that is not easy to win at, and he managed to do it. I think he ended up 24-31. Again, doesn't sound great, right? But for there, it's pretty incredible. In fact, I think 2 of his 5 years, they won 7 games. And if you go back, Kent State had 2 7-win seasons the previous, I think, 35 years. So it was a hard place to win, and he managed to do it. Even, I think, one year, won the division there in the MAC. So it was impressive. And he's bounced around at some other places. He was at Syracuse. He was at Bowling Green, I believe. Offensive-minded guy, right? Pretty young guy, 37. Known being a pretty good offensive coach. I would not read too much into what happened at Colorado. That was an odd move. He was somewhat demoted as play caller by Deion Sanders a few games into the year. It was kind of odd. I wouldn't read too much into that. But Sean certainly has a respected resume and is known very much for taking maybe not the best players and putting them in great positions, especially on offense, to win games maybe he's not supposed to. That's certainly what he did at Kent State.
Ross, as far as the name goes, was he a guy that was viewed as like a hot commodity around college football for this upcoming coaching cycle, or was he a name that may have, a couple of years from now, he might get another head coaching job down the road? Was he a guy that I guess was the hot guy out there that potentially was going to be a head coach somewhere, if not San Diego State?
Yeah, he probably was going to get a job this year, a head job. It just the question was kind of where, right? He was, I think he was in the mix, and I say in the mix, I don't necessarily mean that he interviewed, but certainly his name was around plenty of other jobs, including Boise State and including some other places that may come open or have already closed. So I think many expected that Sean was going to land at a job. And, he probably got the best job west of the Rockies. That was, the San Diego State opening when you look at Boise and you look at Oregon State and you look at New Mexico, Nevada might come open eventually. I think San Diego State, new stadium, right, and all that stuff. I think you'd probably say that's probably the best job of that group. And there's an argument to be made with Oregon State, certainly, in Boise. But Sean was, to go back to your question, Sean was definitely going to land somewhere. It was just a question of where.
Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, is with us right now. We're going to talk about an article he wrote today about the future of the Mountain West and what it means for Oregon State and Washington State as well. But I just wanted to ask you, like, 30,000-foot view on San Diego State football. How well positioned are they now? Like you mentioned, the new stadium, obviously the location, the resources, being in Southern California. Like, what do you make of San Diego State's football program, where they are and where they're heading?
Yeah. First of all, I think, it's been proven that you can win there and win pretty good there. It's been done before, and you look at, as you mentioned there, the new stadium and I mean, it's just incredible. I had a spin around the new stadium about a year and a half or so ago, I guess. Visited there, and I mean, it was just incredible. Like it's one of the just most kind of appropriate. Well, first of all, I've never seen a stadium with more beer taps.
Yeah.
So that is amazing to me as a beer drinker. That was awesome. But yeah, really cool stadium. And when you have a setup like that, you can recruit to that. I know you can take like a tram, from campus to the game and downtown and all that. It's pretty incredible. I know that, there were a lot of expectations on a move, to the Power Five for San Diego State this past summer. It didn't happen, obviously, but the Pac-12's collapse. And now you have, I don't know, we're going to talk about it later, but this alliance scheduling kind of alliance. And so maybe P5 isn't in the near future as maybe once it was, but because you're in it where you are in San Diego State, or in San Diego, in Southern California, surrounded by all those resources and recruiting and the talent, it's certainly one of the best group of five jobs. And soon, look, we're going to be dealing in the future with a very different model for college athletics. It's coming within the next, who knows, in the next year, certainly within the next 2 or 3 years. And I would imagine that the upper echelon of the group of five will be okay in that model. And I think I would guess that San Diego State is in that group.
Ross Dellinger, senior college football reporter with Yahoo Sports, with us right now, and Jon and Jim. Your reporting has been excellent around this saga related to the Pac-12, Oregon State, Washington State's future. And you reported today that Oregon State and Washington State are finalizing a scheduling alliance with the Mountain West Conference. For our listeners that haven't read it, what is this going to mean for programs like San Diego State, financially and otherwise? And what does this mean for Washington State and Oregon State?
Yeah, I think right now it's just a 1-year thing next season, but there's an option for a second year to do it in 2025 because we all know, right, Oregon State and Washington State are probably for 2 years going to play as a 2-team league, keep alive the Pac-12 brand, and I mean maybe one day rebuild the Pac-12 in some way. But for now, temporarily, they're getting those Pac-12 resources and assets. I mean, there's a lot of legal stuff going on there, but they're keeping alive the Pac-12. And, if you're a 2-team league, right, you need some help scheduling wise, especially when you kick off in 9 months. So I think the positive for Oregon State and Washington State with this deal is they get 6 games against Mountain West teams to fill their schedule next year and maybe the next. And the positive for the Mountain West is you maybe, first of all, you get more money, right? It's around $14 million. It's basically $1 million a game, I believe, that Oregon State and Washington State will pay. Now, I'm not sure if that's for 2 years or 1. It's kind of been one of those things that's unclear. But that is kind of the fee. So you get some money if you're the Mountain West, and you also take the first step into maybe some kind of merger with those two schools, whether that's under the Pac-12 brand eventually, or those two schools come into your league and come into under the Mountain West umbrella. I don't know. Remains to be seen. And you get games against them, right? That probably enhances your TV package in your season ticket sales. So I think it's kind of a win-win all around. And it's certainly interesting and unique, right? But what's happened with the Pac-12 is certainly very unique in itself.
No doubt about it. Ross, before you go, also in your reporting, you said that schools that already had non-conference games scheduled against a Washington State or an Oregon State, that would include San Diego State. I think they have Washington State at Snapdragon in early September, would also play the other quote-unquote Pac-2 team. So from San Diego State's perspective, we could see the Aztecs playing both Washington State and Oregon State. They also have California, by the way, on their non-conference schedule currently, but we could see the Aztecs playing both of those teams next year.
Yes. So the way I believe it works, and obviously, I think by the end of this week or early next week, we'll have an announcement of some kind. We'll be able to see all this in paper and in print. But the way it works is each Mountain West team will play 7 conference games, and then they'll play 1 game against either Washington State or Oregon State each year. But if they already have, as you mentioned, one of them scheduled in a non-conference game, they'll keep that game, but they'll play the other one. Right. So in this case, as you mentioned, the way it's been explained to me, they would play Oregon State. And because they have Washington State at home, I would imagine that Oregon State game will be on the road, but I don't know for sure. And then I think the next, if they do an option, right, and do the second year, I believe they have another game scheduled against Washington State, right? It's there. So you would imagine they would get Oregon State maybe at home. That's how it's been described, how it will work.
What do we need to do to get a Mississippi State, San Diego State home and home? Can you call JD? I mean, will you be out here if Mississippi State makes the trip to Southern California?
I may come out there. I tell you what, I'll take any excuse to come to San Diego. It's I've been there maybe 3 times, and every time I've gone, it's been a different part of the year. But the weather has been the exact same.
Yeah.
Sunny and 75. It's just incredible. So I take any excuse to go to San Diego. But I'll see if I can convince JD to get that matchup with the Bulldogs going. The SEC teams, they're not much for road games outside of their territory. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's a tough place to live, Ross.
Text JD. Get this done. Thank you, Ross. Great reporting. We'll follow up with you throughout the course of this winter. Thank you for doing it.
All right, guys.
All right, Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports.
Interesting stuff there.
Yeah, very good. I mean, honestly, really good stuff. Now, again, from a Power 5 perspective, what we talked about, we know what happened with the Pac-12, but there's going to be revenue coming in by playing Oregon State and Washington State, which I think is a positive. The Sean Lewis thing, he spoke very highly of Sean Lewis.
Very highly.
And the trajectory of San Diego State.
Yeah, this is a national reporter talking about, look, if you are going to use Sean Lewis getting demoted at Colorado as like a bad thing, don't read too much into that. Like, that was a very weird situation headed by, Deion Sanders kind of face planting, honestly, at Colorado after his first couple games there.
No doubt.
Like, not really knowing how to handle losing well. When they did lose, it turned into like, hey, you got to be better. And if you're not, I'm going to get rid of all of you guys. Yeah. Like, that's not how you do it. And
except my kid.
Yeah. Like, hey, I'm going to get rid of you if you don't do better. Like, what? And so then not blaming, but it looked like the blame was going on Sean Lewis when they demoted him. And essentially it turned it into a giant face plant there for Deion. Who even knows how long Deion lasts there, by the way, after this pretty bad
really hard
season.
To know.
After they started out well and then just completely went in the gutter. But again, what Ross said there is, don't look too much into him being demoted. This guy knows offense. He breathes offense. He's a guy that is offensive minded, and at a place that's San Diego, pretty good fit.
And another thing about Sean Lewis and Colorado is if you read it in real time when he was quote unquote demoted or whatever it technically was after 7 or 8 games, there was like universal consensus.
Like, this ain't his fault.
That Deion made the wrong choice.
Yeah.
There was and from the coaching profession, from those that cover the sport nationally, from administrators. Like, Sean Lewis was the hire you made to point this thing in the right direction. And for you to turn away from him now when the going gets tough is short-sighted. And that was proven out to be true based on the way they played the last 4 or 5 games on offense.
Yeah, they had a horrible offensive line. Shedeur Sanders, I thought, played really well at times this year, but there was other times where he held on the ball way too long. They couldn't run the football because they didn't have a good offensive line, so they had to pass it all the time. And there were times where they had big offensive moments. But to blame, again, like I said to start the show, it reminds me a lot of like Kyle Shanahan when he was the offensive coordinator with, like, if I'm trying to put 2 and 2 together.
Right. The guy's like, it's a great point. Like, you remember, or what people are going to say is they blew it.
Yeah.
It didn't work. It's on Shanahan. And you'd be like, well, hold on. He ran and still runs a prolific offense. One of the best in professional football.
He didn't recruit he didn't get the defense ready. Like, did he give up a 29-0 lead? He was the one that got to 29-0 versus Stanford.
Right.
That was, I think, the game that broke the camel's back there. The straw that broke the camel's back. And then the next game following that, I think they played Oregon State, and that game was not good.
I don't have it in front of me.
No, sorry. They played UCLA. That was the game where after that game, the change was made to Pat Shurmur. They scored 16 points versus UCLA on the road. And who knows what happened behind the scenes, right? Who knows? I mean, so, yeah, I mean, that game was a close game until the fourth quarter, until UCLA scored 14 points in the fourth quarter.
This is what I would say. And I think Aztec fans, I look at what's going on right now on social media, not that it's the greatest indicator. I think there's a lot of praise and excitement, okay?
Yeah.
A lot of people are asking for offense. You can't really do much better than what they've done here with Sean Lewis. And here's the other thing that I think is really going to excite Aztec fans. When the transfer portal opens and you have a coach like Sean Lewis and you have some of the ties he has to players that have been at Colorado or elsewhere.
Super interested.
Yeah, I mean, aren't you fascinated by what he's going to try to accomplish on both sides of the ball, but maybe specifically on offense? Immediately when the portal opens December 4th?
Hey, one thing I would put a lot of money on right now is once the portal opens, one of the first things that gets accomplished here through the portal for San Diego State football is a quarterback. I would.
Do you think, I mean, is it too easy to be like, well, hold on, Colorado has decommitments, and there's some Colorado quarterbacks, previous commits, that spoke very highly of their relationship with Sean Lewis. Is it too easy to connect the dots and be like, well, they were going to go to Colorado, but now he's at San Diego State, so they're going to come to San Diego State?
I'll connect those dots.
Yeah, I mean, it seemingly makes sense.
And it could not work out. Like Danny O'Neal is the guy that decommitted.
He was the one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was a 3-star quarterback from
He had a lot of Power 5 offers, I saw, including Colorado.
Right. And he went there pretty much because of Sean Lewis. Like that he
verbally committed there because of Sean Lewis.
He credited Sean Lewis as a big reason why he verbally committed to Colorado.
And then recently decommitted, like within the last 48 hours.
Two quarterbacks
within the last 48 hours.
Yeah, have decommitted. And then also the next day, 48 hours later, the offensive coordinator's now, here. And I was listening to Dan Patrick, and he made a good point. Is that
was he talking about this today?
He was not talking about this. Okay. He was just talking about Colorado and the reasons why you're seeing so many players now decommit from Colorado. Is that they all verbally committed probably when Colorado was at its peak at the beginning of the year.
Right, the marketing machine.
Just everywhere you looked, it was Colorado this, Colorado that, right?
Not the last 6
and weeks, you probably got a lot of verbal commits during that time. They're like, dude, this is awesome there. And then you saw Colorado actually sucks. And then you saw some.
It's not that they, you know what I mean? Like, look, they went 1-11 last year.
I know.
And they won 4 games, and their second half wasn't good.
Well, I think more importantly, you saw turmoil there.
Right.
And that probably was like, I don't know about that. And then another probably reason is like, hey, the offensive coordinator, Sean Lewis, I want to go there for him or because of him. I see all the offense that they're putting up 500 yards a game, 30 plus points, 40 plus points, right? I want to go there. And all of a sudden you see Dion say that you're not calling plays anymore. And most likely means Sean Lewis is gone. And one of the big reasons why you wanted to go there is because of the high-powered offense.
Listen,
I put two and two together. Could it happen? Could it not happen?
Right. But we can find out pretty quick, to be honest.
Probably.
It checks the boxes for this show. Brent loves the Wisconsin Badgers, and he played at Wisconsin. Sean Lewis.
Oh,
he
there we
played
go.
at Wisconsin. So we have that. You have Jim, who was clamoring for an
Well, he's
offense.
on the team.
He was there. He wore a jersey.
Whatever.
He didn't play a lot.
Right. But he went to Wisconsin, played football under like Alvarez, Paul Chris. It is Paul Chris, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Then you had Jim, who's been saying, I want an offensive coach.
Yeah.
Right?
I want the hot guy, as Marty would say.
And I said, just go get the best coach. And I would argue that that's what J.D. Wicker has accomplished here. When you look at the resume of Sean Lewis. So it's checking boxes here. Again, you get in the weeds a little bit. Like, look at his like coaching tree and where he's been and the successes he's had and who he's been with.
Mm-hmm.
And it checks a ton of boxes. Now, are there questions? Yeah, like who's going to be on the staff? We're going to find out in the days ahead, presumably. Are they still going to run a 3-3-5? Something that's been a staple at San Diego State the last 15 years. When will we learn more about the schedule because of stuff that Ross Dellinger is reporting? So there's questions, but I feel like there's a lot of, I don't know, exciting questions, like reasons for excitement based on this reported hire by San Diego State. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. And I think a lot of Aztec fans that have communicated with me here today are very optimistic about what this could mean for the Aztecs. Again, without saying that, hey, they're going 13-0 next year. I mean, you have to be reasonable. But being reasonable, I think the trajectory looks good, hopefully, with Sean Lewis.
619 number says, to publicly demote a professional coach is not something Dion would not do unless there was an issue. Sean Lewis's offense is very predictable, which is why his tenures are short. This is a total 100% upside hire. We were kind of led to believe that there was going to be some big name. That's why people are bummed. This hire reminds me of the Padres' Jace Tingler hire.
Hold on. Short tenures. He was the head coach at Kent State in the MAC for 5 years. 5.
Yeah.
That's not a short tenure in modern college football. So what short tenure? Jace Tingler. If you don't follow college football, well, then you don't know college football. If you... You know what I mean? Like, if you have followed the Colorado story, you're aware of what's played out here with Sean Lewis and Pat Shurmur and Deion Sanders. Like, this was highly publicized at the time. A acting head coach left Kent State to go be the OC for Deion Sanders. So this is not obscure. He's been rumored to Michigan State this fall.
And the offense at Colorado, for the 8 games that he was the primary offensive coordinator there, average over 400 yards of total offense and 35 points a game. I love these texts.
Yeah.
Like,
keep them coming.
I said, hey, if you're upset about Sean Lewis, that's totally fine. I'm not going to say you shouldn't be. But then who would you rather have them hired? Like, give me a name, right? Give me a name.
Nobody has names.
This 334 number, which I don't think we've ever gotten a text from a 334 number.
Okay.
Maybe we have, but can't remember. Says, I'm okay with the hire, but I wanted Frank Wright.
Who just got fired by the Carolina Panthers?
858 number says, do you guys think they would have had a shot at Eric Bieniemy, considering his San Diego ties and his desire to prove he can be a head coach?
Again,
I don't think he wants to be a head coach. Otherwise, he would have been one.
He's in the NFL calling.
In the NFL.
He's offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders
in mid-season, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. On the other side, we're going to hear more from Sean Lewis on the other side.
Yes, it was the. I'm stealing from Darnay again. It was what
Shador.
It was Shador Sanders on Sean Lewis.
Okay, I like that. Plus, again, the latest winter meetings days away. Is Juan Soto's future in San Diego or not? What Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic reported earlier today. Stay with us. It's Jon and Jim. All right. Recently, we found out that San Diego is arguably the most expensive city in the country to live in. And with the year being almost over, you might need cash for the holidays. Or maybe you want to be credit card debt free for the new year. Call Loan Pronto today. Their Express Equity line of credit can get you $20, $50, $100,000 in as little as 5 days. You've got a ton of equity in your home. Loan Pronto can help you turn that equity into cash, where you can access up to 95% of your home's value. Use the money to pay off all your credit cards, pay off personal loans, start a home improvement project, add solar panels. You can get the money you need now and still keep your primary mortgage intact, so your 3% rate is protected. And with Loan Pronto's Express Equity Line program, 90% of the time, there's no need for an appraisal, so you can get your money super fast. Get the holiday cash you need, or pay off all those credit cards before the new year. Get yourself on solid financial footing before the year ends by calling Loan Pronto right now. 619-207-4336. Write this down. 619-207-4336, or go to loanpronto.com. Call 619-207-4336. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
This update's brought to you by Macy's Backstage. According to multiple reports, San Diego State has hired their next head coach. It is offensive coordinator from Colorado, Sean Lewis, moving over to Aztecs basketball last night. They beat Point Loma 71-51. They're now 6-1 on the season. College football playoff rankings. Florida State has now jumped into the top 4 college football rankings. Georgia, number 1, followed by Michigan and Washington. And what you will find at Macy's Backstage, how about the perfect holiday gifts? Just $25 and under, like matching family PJs, fragrance sets, toys, and more. Find the latest trends, new arrivals, and great prices at a Macy's Backstage store near you.
All right, Jon and Jim back with you. Okay. We're going to get to Jim's back page still ahead, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so Shedeur Sanders earlier this year was commenting on his OC, Sean Lewis.
Yeah.
Where'd you find this, Darnay?
This is Darnay, 100%.
Have Darnay do more for this show.
It's kind of like a hype video.
Okay.
You'll hear music in the background and stuff, so it's kind of like a hype video.
All right. Then this is a hype video featuring Shedeur Sanders.
Working with Coach Lewis is amazing. He's something I never had before.
These are the championship moments, right?
Each and every day, each and every period, like, he pushes me to grow in different areas. Like, it could be while we're eating breakfast. He pushes me to eat all my food.
Freaking intensity right here. Be who we are. Gotta beat the air. Gotta beat the air.
So it's the little things that matter to him. So I'm extremely grateful that he's the OC and he's here to run the show.
Sign me the F up.
Sorry, I just like good hype videos.
Can I, I don't know if we mentioned this on air. There was a really good point from Darren.
Yes.
Which is normal, unlike
me.
Right.
Yeah.
But Darren put on social media, I don't have it exactly in front of me, but something along the lines of like, this guy should know the importance of like NIL and transfer portal because of his ties to Deion here over last year.
Yeah, it was along the lines of he was in a place where NIL and the transfer portal was heavily
center of the universe,
center of their program. So, of course, he got a firsthand look at some of the higher echelon NIL deals in the country and the transfer portal.
Yeah, Sean Lewis, here's the exact tweet. Sean Lewis probably got a great look at unprecedented NIL deals and transfer portal experience important in modern college football. And he's spot on. That's there's no question about it.
Yeah.
Plus also, I mean, yeah, I think that's it. Here's the thing with Sean Lewis that I really like. He's done it at both ends of the spectrum. Kent State is a program that had not had success at the Group of 5 level, okay, in the MAC with limited resources. And then you go to Colorado with this like superstar head coach, former NFL player, the talk of the sport. So like he's seen it from multiple sides of the coin. And now, again, with all due respect to Kent State, San Diego State has more
resources.
Yeah, that's exactly the right word. More resources for him to be successful with.
Mm-hmm.
That and resources do matter. So how does he take advantage of those resources?
You've heard it from multiple people who cover college football and know more about college football than me or even you, John.
Okay.
Say that San Diego State is somewhat of a sleeping giant. Maybe not to the extent of like Alabama or Michigan.
Well, those programs aren't really right. I mean,
they're not sleeping giants.
They've
but
won national championship.
Like a giant in college football. That's what I meant, like Alabama, Michigan. But as far as just where they're at, the resources they have, the potential for them with the expansion of the college football playoff to really push for something special.
Did you see? Remember, there was the back and forth I had with Derek Togerson, where it's like, I'm not to put words in his mouth, but essentially, yeah, it's a good job in the Group of 5, but it's not like an elite job. And I really pushed back on that. And then, Chris Vanini and other staff writers at The Athletic ranked the vacancies in college football. And I don't have it in front of me, but they had San Diego State higher than Oregon State, higher than Syracuse, higher than Indiana, higher than Boise. So The Athletic, I think I have that right. The Athletic right now, today, in ranking the open jobs, has San Diego State a better job than Oregon State, Syracuse, Indiana, Boise State. Not me, them.
And it's also, I think, telling that how quickly they got this done. Like, you heard in the promo to start the show how I was saying, mid-December, second week of December. It's not even December 1st yet. They got a head coach. Not saying that I don't think they settled at all. Like, sometimes you could say you settled and you just got someone here because you wanted to get someone quickly as possible. I don't think they settled at all. We heard at least, 4 names that were interviewed or 4 names linked to this job.
Right. Who'd we hear? Niamata Lolo, Brennan Marion, UNLV offensive coordinator. Who was the initial name we heard before Marion?
Tony White.
Tony White. Thank you.
And
DC
then
at Nebraska. Those are the 3.
Those are the 3. And then I think another name that was put out there that was put as a linked to San Diego State. I don't know if they've had any discussions. Was offensive coordinator from Washington.
Oh, Ryan Grubb.
I don't think they interviewed him at all. I don't know. Could be wrong. Maybe they did. I don't know. They're in the midst of a very important season up in Washington.
And they got a championship game this weekend. Yeah.
Right. So I think you had definitely interviews of a lot of different people. Right?
Sure. Absolutely.
And they didn't settle for a San Diego State guy. They didn't settle for somebody that had ties to the program just because ties to the program may have meant something to Aztecs fans. But
which is completely fair. I mean, San Diego State's had a lot of success in the last 15 years. They absolutely have.
Would you say this is a risky hire at all?
No, I mean, the way I look at this, I think I started the show by saying it, is I think it's savvy. I think it's smart. I think it checks a lot of boxes, and I think you got real high upside. Nobody has any crystal ball in any sport.
Right.
No one knows the future.
Right.
So, and we'll discuss it over the course of time moving forward. But this is what Aztec fans were asking for, and this is what you get.
Yeah, you wanted an offensive guy here. You got an offensive guy here. Could it work? Could it not work out? Absolutely. Could crash and burn. By year 2, everybody could be saying, get him out of town. That's how things work. But on the initial first glance, I mean, yeah, you can have your reservations for it, but to bash it as far as to say it's like the worst thing
I'm
ever.
seeing very little of that, to be honest. You have a couple of haters.
Yeah, of course.
But it's actually it's a minority. It's a small minority that I've seen of really strong criticism. Would you agree with that or no?
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah,
there's a couple of people.
Yeah, there's a few. There's been a few, but that's any hire.
I mean,
that's like any hire.
I put out a very, very scientific poll, John.
Okay.
Very, very scientific at Jon Jim on Twitter or X.
Yeah.
So, do you like the hire of Sean Lewis, Aztecs fans? Yes or no? Very simple. 88% says yes. Now, of course, we have a lot of Aztecs fans that are, support our show.
Yeah, definitely.
But still, a lot of Aztecs fans could have said, no, we hate this hire. So there you go. 88% on our very super uber duper scientific poll on Twitter.
Right.
That says 88% like the hire.
Yeah. It's a big, listen, I would just say this. The difference between making a hire today and 10 years ago today from San Diego State's perspective is there's access to the college football playoff. This isn't March Madness.
No.
But it's closer to March Madness than it's ever been. And with the right individual, and we're going to find out over time if Sean Lewis is that guy for San Diego State, you can reach the highest levels of the sport. Something that didn't even exist, the possibility a decade ago. Rocky Long would come on San Diego Sports 760 or Extra and say, we want to win a Mountain West because we know it's not realistic to get to the playoff. It's a closed system. That's changing. And I'm not saying that you go 4-8 and you get to the playoff a year later, but there's access there that with the right person and with the right resources, you can win and you can play with the big boys. And that didn't exist 10 years ago.
Paul Garrison, who we have on a lot to talk about Aztecs, I'm sure we'll have him on this week to talk about this move for sure. He put out an interesting tweet a couple hours ago. If you are already onto the, who's going to be on the staff, right? Who's going to be on his coaching staff? A name that Paul put out, Andrew Sauter, was Sean Lewis's OC his entire time at Kent State. Yesterday, Sauter left Minnesota, where he spent last season as a tight ends coach. Souter was the OC / tight ends coach at San Jose State in 2017.
Can I give you one additional name there? Because I like that.
Okay. What do you got?
Because I talked about him like as a potential head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Lewis's mentor in the business is Dino Babers, former Syracuse head coach, who was at Eastern Illinois when they came here with Jimmy G.
Yeah.
Right? Dino Babers is a San Diegan that was just fired by Syracuse.
Interesting.
Could Dino Babers be a candidate to be on the staff?
For what side of the ball?
Offense.
Okay.
Yeah,
maybe, sure.
You know, so again, it's intriguing. I love the idea of putting a staff together. I think there's coaches real quick, and I know we got to get to Jim's back page. I think there's coaches on the San Diego State staff that have a chance to really help Sean Lewis.
Yeah.
And I'd be surprised if there weren't coaches retained on his staff.
Yeah.
That would surprise me, and I don't know. And I don't know if we'll get answers tomorrow. That's probably too soon, but I'm excited about the staff part of it now, assuming Sean Lewis is the next head coach of San Diego State. All right, on the other side, we'll get to Jim's back page. Stay with us. All right, the latest on San Diego State's reported coaching hire, plus Jim's back page next. All right, Jim just had an interesting theory.
All right, I had a hypothetical for you, John.
He had a premonition.
Yeah, with the hiring of Sean Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
What if?
I'm listening.
What if Marvin Harrison Jr. decides to return, enters the transfer portal, and he decides to come to San Diego State because of Sean Lewis? Same thing with Caleb Williams.
Put it out there into the ether. Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr. You heard it here first from
It could
Jim.
happen.
Absolutely. These are the targets. These are very realistic. I like how you're being reasonable with this.
Very reasonable.
We've gone from Sean Lewis, it hasn't even been officially announced, to Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr. If they're 13-0, which semifinal will they be in? What playoff game will they be hosting? Very reasonable.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. All right, let's get to it.
All right, we'll start here with we didn't talk about it yesterday.
What's that?
I feel like it needs to be brought up. This Sports Illustrated AI scandal.
So ridiculous.
I mean, this is amazing. So if you didn't hear about this, and yes, I know we're a day late, but it's very back page worthy.
Right. Yesterday's back page.
Sports Illustrated, they used an AI generator to come up with fake articles written by fake reporters and publish them
with fake headshots.
With fake headshots
AI
of people.
generated.
So basically,
of writers.
What Sports Illustrated did is they bought AI generated headshots and created fake writer profiles so they could publish AI generated content and make it look real. Then they deleted the content when they were asked about it.
Can I just say this? Well, what a fall for Sports Illustrated from where they were like 40 years ago to today.
Mm-hmm.
The thing's a complete mess. I mean, it's been like sold like 100 times over.
Right.
I will say this. I kind of give them credit for it.
Why?
It's so absurd and so ridiculous.
Like it's the dumbest thing ever.
It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Man,
it's that absurd.
Sports Illustrated used to be the go-to.
They don't print them anymore.
I know. I used to when I was like younger.
Yeah, you collect the covers. And
dude, Sports Illustrated was everything.
It's
like, oh, dude, I remember go to the store and be like, oh, Steph Curry's on this cover of Sports Illustrated. I want to get that.
I still remember. Like everyone remembers some cover from their childhood. And I'm not talking about like the swimsuit, but like I remember the Why Miami.
Those count too.
Remember the cover? I feel like Brent might remember this. There was a cover that for whatever reason is so vivid with me. Why the University of Miami should drop football was a cover of a Sports Illustrated. It was like bombshell reporting at the time. Now it's like a drop in the bucket. There aren't even Sports Illustrateds. They have these fake writers that aren't real people.
It's amazing.
I always remember the Tony Mandridge cover of The Incredible Bulk.
Of course. Yeah.
Dude, and he was like the biggest bust.
Yeah.
Sports Illustrated.
Well, not anymore, but
man,
that's ridiculous.
Kids these days don't know how good it used to be. All right. Next up, a man in Michigan got a lottery ticket and it was a mistake and he ended up winning big. Listen to this story.
What was the mistake?
So a man in Michigan says every few weeks he goes to his favorite local restaurant and he always goes to the local store and gets a Lucky for Life ticket for 10 or 20 draws. Okay. When he asked the person at the front desk for a ticket for 10 draws on his special lottery ticket, the clerk accidentally printed a ticket with 10 lines for one draw.
I don't even fully get that.
I don't really get it either.
Okay.
But let's just go with it.
Okay. So that's what the guy printed, and that resulted in the big win.
Printed it. The man saw it, realized the mistake, but still told him, whatever, I'll just take it.
I'll take the ticket.
It's not what I wanted.
But whatever.
I'll take it.
But that hit.
It hit for a big amount of money.
How much?
$25,000 for life.
So on like essentially like a scratch off type play? Or was this
the mistake led to the man winning the game's second top prize, which was $25,000 a year for life.
Oh. Well, for 30 years, for example, that's $750K.
I'll take it.
Imagine if you had an extra $25K a year for life.
And finally, Harvard University will reportedly offer a new course in 2024 titled Taylor Swift and Her World. The course will dive into how Swift's work intersects with the literacy of, I guess, literacy.
College
canon.
isn't a waste of money at all.
Yeah.
Go spend all that
Jim,
money.
You should
be in
apply.
debt.
Harvard.
I'm sure you get in.
A+ in that
Go
class.
get a degree in Taylor Swift.
Yep. All right. If you missed anything today, great show. SportsSD.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify. Find us on YouTube. Search for Jon and Jim 760. If you're listening to us on a podcast, please leave a review. Would really appreciate that. Find us on social media at Jon and Jim, JONANDJIM. Back tomorrow at 3 for Brent and Jim. I'm Jon. Keep it here at San Diego Sports 760.
Okay. Peace out. Bye.
Okay.